Personally, one of my favourite racing games of all time. Virtual Racing for the Sega Mega Drive. Does it still hold up today? Welcome back, guys, to the GameZone Birdroom. GameZone Birdroom. GameZone. GameZone Birdroom. And of course, it's not the GameZone Birdroom without my babies, is it? Here's the box. Nice artwork. Shame the game don't actually look like that. Let's open it up. The manual. And look at the size of that cartridge. That's a big boy in it. SVP. I'll explain that later. So we're presented with this lovely 3D logo of Sega. They should add the Sega. Never mind. And look at that. So, run of the mill, free run, 2 players, option and records. So we've got beginner, medium and expert. We'll start off with beginner. So you must be thinking, how did the Mega Drive produce graphics like this? Well, it had a little help. It had a chip actually built into the cartridge. This is why it's such a large cartridge. Basically stole the idea from Nintendo. A lot of the Super Nintendo games had the special FX chip, like Donkey Kong Country. But before all that, Virtual Racers started life in the arcades, with Sega's version of Stan Lee, Yunitsuki, the man who created Super Hang-On, Space Harrier, Afterburner, and later on Virtual Fighter Series, Daytona USA and Shenmue, just to name a few. This game was the pioneer of the 3D games we know today. Sure, there was a couple of 3D games before it, but this is wow. It was fast, smooth, everything about it was futuristic. Sega Model 1 arcade board was the most powerfulest arcade system in the world at that time. It was capable of 180,000 polygons per second, which was unheard of in the game industry, and a smooth 60 frames per second. How does the Mega Drive version stack up to it? Well, it's a lot lower, should we say. The Sega Virtual Processing unit could produce 9,000 polygons per second, which Virtual Racer was maxed out to, and it could do 15 frames per second for a system that was released in 1988. That's not bad at all, is it? Good old Mega Drive. How does Virtual Racing handle then for the Mega Drive? Very nice, I'm happy to say. When I got this for Christmas in '94, it was like the future had arrived. Never have I experienced 3D gaming like this at this point. It was mind-boggling. I mean, looking at it now with those flat shaded polygons. It's an ugly game, but boy, does it still play well. I get this off my shelf every so often, whack it into my Megadrive, and have a bloody good time. Even the 2-player mode, even though it has its faults, slow down is a lot more severe. The pop-ups and the drawing is not as good as the single-player mode, but me and my brother used to have some great races on this. So what about track design for this game? Luckily, Union Suki was a massive fan of racing games, and he had a passion and love for Formula 1. And as you can tell, with the car in this game, it looks a bit like a McLaren from the 80s and 90s. And if you play two-player mode, it looks like a Williams from the 90s. So he had a great passion and love for racing games. And as you can tell with the love and care that he put into this game. So the track design for all 3 tracks are fantastic. Like many of their games in this decade, Sega Rally, Daytona, Sega had a real knack for it. Nice little jingles in the game. I don't think they had enough memory to put it through the whole of the game, so they just had like little sound bites to it. Every time you went through that checkpoint, it would come up with a little jingle. And it would say time bonus, not something else. Naughty people. The game was also ported to the 32X, Sega Saturn, later to the PlayStation 2, and recently to Nintendo Switch. The definitive version, if you can believe it, was the 32X version. Union Suki's team developed it for the 32X as well as the Megadrive. And I'm happy to say that I can actually experience it now with my Sega Mega Drive Mini, as I've downloaded the 32X version for it, so I'm looking forward to playing that and checking it out. Apparently the Switch version now is the definitive version to own. It's a shame I haven't got one. But saying that, if you never experienced virtual racing and all you got is an old Mega Drive somewhere in your loft, this isn't a bad version at all. It plays like the arcade version. May not look like it, but it does play well. It really does. The handling of this car is just something else. I'm a massive fan of the arcade handling. The way you can just go around the corners and drift. You know, not to say that I don't like today's racing games like Gran Turismo, Forza, with their more realistic styling of gameplay. They are brilliant, graphically superb. But I don't know, there's something about these old games that I really do love. It's such a great shame that Sega didn't utilise the Sega Virtua Processor unit more. Because if they went down this route instead of the 32X, I think, you know, maybe, just maybe, a glimmer of hope, they would have still been in business today producing wonderful games consoles for us consumers. Because apparently there was supposed to be Virtual Fire and Daytona that was supposed to use the chip for the Mega Drive, but it never came to be. Anyway, I've chatted enough. Let this play out. Now back to my boat race. For my final thoughts on Virtua Racer for the Sega Mega Drive, hit and miss. Graphically, very outdated, very pixelated. Yeah, not what you call a quality looking racer. I mean, the races today on the Xbox and the PlayStation 4 are beautiful. But back in '94, when this was released for the Mega Drive, it would have looked futuristic. Trust me, I didn't think anything could get better than that graphically. I know, dumbass, eh? Handling though, playability of the game still as brilliant as ever. You know, I remember playing it back in '94, and it was, well, to me it felt silky smooth. You can tell frame rate is probably around about sort of 15 frames per second. What do you expect for an old game anyway? Seriously though, this game needs to be in any Mega Drive collector's collection. It's still as playable today as it was back in '94. It's a terrific game. I still take it off the shelf, whack it into me Mega Drive and play it to this day. Anyway guys, if you enjoyed the review, like, subscribe, take it easy. Next time on GameZone Birdroom. That's right guys, Street Fighter 2 for the Super Nintendo.